Good? Okay. Well, good morning, and thanks for coming. Thanks for having me here. My name is Matthew Baldy, and I'm with a company called Security First Corp. Interestingly enough, we're an Orange County-based cybersecurity company. Many times you might think of Silicon Valley up north as hosting pretty much many of the cybersecurity companies, right? Well, we are based in Rancho Santa Margarita, California, and my role here is to just talk a little bit about what we do, but more importantly, I want to try to give you a little bit more of a global perspective on cybersecurity. In my role, I have the pleasure of traveling globally, and I just returned from Barcelona, Spain, Dublin, Ireland, London, England, Munich, Germany, the Netherlands, visited The Hague, which is considered the capital of security in the European Union, and Sydney, Australia, Singapore, a couple of other places. So I've been around the world just a little bit. But first, before I started, I wanted to thank Dr. Goffman for inviting us here, and want to commend him. How many engineering students do we have in the audience here? Who's an engineering student, right? So my background is electrical engineering, and I was told throughout my tenure that all engineers are introverts, and nobody can publicly speak, or can't speak out in public. And I would lay claim that Dr. Goffman's a very good public speaker. So I applaud him for that, right? So my claim is that we can be technical, but we can also speak in front of people. So I enjoy the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from some of the other speakers today, because no matter where I go, and the one thing I've learned in my career is I don't have all the answers. And to me, continuous learning is my number one goal, is that every day I learn something new. So I guarantee you today, I'll learn as much as anybody in the room, because that's important to me. What I would say also is, who here might want to have a job someday? Does anybody want a paying job someday? Yes? I would say that you have chosen an outstanding career opportunity in cybersecurity. There are so many different areas for you to go into as it relates to cybersecurity. And I'll give you one example. I heard from the chief operating officer from one of the largest cloud companies in the world say that an enterprise organization utilizes 85 different security tools from 55 different security vendors to protect their enterprise. So to me, that says that one person is now currently responsible for a whole lot of things. And your opportunities in this industry can vary from research or being a specialist in any one of those areas. I saw some things on your website about biometrics and some other areas of study that are being done here. And I would tell you that there's a tremendous opportunity. Someone brought up to me just yesterday that there's 156 unfilled cybersecurity jobs in San Diego alone. 156. We can't find enough qualified people in this industry that will help protect the data. Now, I have to take mention of the folks that are in the offensive cybersecurity team here, right? Now, I would say I was fortunate to actually play football while going through an engineering degree at the University of Toledo in Ohio. I was the only engineer on that Division I football team, right? Now, we had an offense and a defense. So to me, offense were the guys who were trying to score. Now, I don't know if that means you're the good guys or the bad guys. Are you trying to get in or are you trying to keep people out? But no matter what, I keep thinking of these guys that go to work every day, the guys that take their lunchbox and say, honey, I'm going to go off and I'm going to destroy the world. I'm going to wreak havoc on the banking system. I'm going to steal credit cards. I'm going to take down utility power companies. I'm going to steal every military secret from different governmental agencies. I had a hard time thinking if they just go to work at 8 o'clock and at 5 o'clock they come home and say, yep, I destroyed something today, right? Instead, I think what's happening is, as Dr. Goffman says, cybersecurity, there's an offensive side and a defensive side, but in reality what we're saying is there's the good guys and the bad guys. I would love to think everybody here is with the good guys. We have a tremendous threat to all things going on in all of our countries. as I travel around the world, I see that cybersecurity is not a U.S. issue, right? Cybersecurity is of interest to every country and every person that I meet in this business. Companies are at risk. Someone is either out there stealing data or trying to steal data for nefarious purposes. So everything we can do, and things I'll talk about today, talk a little bit about some of those areas. Things that are important. Things that you're going to hear about different governmental groups, different governments, that now, because of some of those security breaches that have taken place, do not want data to leave their country environments. They're asking for something called geofencing. Geofencing, where that data that is their data, they choose to not let that data leave their country, whether it's Germany or someone else. So as we talk about some of this, I want to share a few things, not only about my company, but more importantly, hopefully some things that you'll find interesting as you proceed in your cybersecurity careers, and for anybody that might be from industry to share some of the new ways of thinking about cybersecurity. So as Dr. Goffman said, a couple of things are happening. An important thing here is the amount of data that's being created globally. If you think about it, texts, photos, videos, health information, all of this data, 90% of this data was created in the last 2 years. What do you think it's going to be next year? The next year after that? When I think of my career and where I started, I wasn't the Stone Ages, but it was a little while ago. There was data, but not to the level that we're at today. Today, everything is interconnected. With the internet, we have access to data from anywhere around the world, whether it's for research, health, anything it might be. And companies that are grabbing hold of this and utilizing this extensive amount of data that is available in a big data environment. Big data is basically taking all these parts and pieces of information that are available. Whether it's an automotive manufacturer that's taking thousands of signals from that automobile and using it to create the best driving experience, or using it to understand what customers want and require. Or health data. One of our customers in particular, a research foundation, is trying to find a cure for cancer. And they're sharing that research data in the cloud with all of the researchers around the world. And that data has to be protected, both going to the cloud, while it's in the cloud, and when it comes back from the cloud. So we'll talk about some of the applications and what's going on with this data. We talk about the amount of data, and this is interesting. I don't know, many of you may already know, but when you start looking at data, what are you talking about? Megabyte used to be a lot of information. Megabyte, a gigabyte, nobody's ever going to use a gigabyte, right? A terabyte, are you kidding me? Holy smokes, that's, we're starting to get into Library of Congress amounts of data, right? Petabytes, whoa, next function of that, right? As we go forward, we're getting into what we consider the area of the zettabytes. Enormous amount of data to be created every day. And the reality is that data needs to be protected because that information contains things like credit card information, company secrets, intellectual property, customer data, health information data, right? Research data, military secrets. A lot of information that needs to be protected. So as we go forward, we're seeing that how is that information being stored? How do you find a means of protecting that much data? It used to be, and we can talk to our folks from Dell and EMC, the size of the storage devices and how they've come down in size to be able to accommodate this amount of data. But the reality is to do so affordably for companies is the cloud has now become a way to secure that, a way to store that data, and do so more cost effectively for a huge amount of data, especially data that can be used, it's either archived data, data that's required for compliance or regulatory related issues, anything like that. Where do you store all of this data? Well, what's happening is the cloud is becoming more available and considered more secure in many cases than what a customer can do on their own in an enterprise environment. So when we talk about this, from a global standpoint, what are some of the global issues? All of these different types of things, when we talk about, perimeter-based solutions, Dr. Goffman mentioned, the reality is you can build the biggest fence out there, which you think is the most secure fence, firewalls, VPNs, you can have threat detection, threat monitoring, all of these things, but the bad guys are finding ways to get around that. Somehow, whether it's an insider or whether it's an outsider that has just found a means of getting in. When you hear of like Sony, what happened to Sony and the amount of loss that was caused by the hack into Sony? Okay, this was, again, a country that is focused on hacking to get the information that they can, okay? And when you see the resources that are put forward, we have a job to do as cybersecurity specialists and experts to try to keep that type of a hack from occurring again. You're going to see more and more of this. Compliance is a big deal to companies, whether it's in the financial services industries, insurance industries, healthcare industries, where they are required by law to protect information from their customers and from their clients, whether it's a patient, whatever it might be. It is a requirement. So cybersecurity is a requirement. Protection of that data is a requirement. IoT information, the Internet of Things, you better believe that that's happening as we speak. Whether it's a wearable device that takes information from your body and sends signals to the doctors to let them know about what condition and what are the signals coming from your body. An automobile that uses these types of devices to create and collect data. This is an absolutely growing space, and you're going to see more and more there. That data has to be protected. Did anybody hear about somebody that hacked into a car and was able to drive that car off of the road from a remote location? It's crazy stuff. So things you don't think about, they're happening. I talked about this a little bit. Data sovereignty is there are countries that no longer, because of Robert Snowden, choose to allow the free flow of information out of their country. So protecting that data sovereignty is a big deal as you travel around the world, as you deal with any international companies, okay? And by the way, I offer that up that when I say that there's opportunities in cybersecurity, I mean on a global basis. So one thing that we have seen, and Dr. Goffman mentioned it briefly, is the traditional network is keep people out. It's very network-centric. What we have done is we've now said we're focusing on the data itself. We know that people will get in, and we're saying that when they get in, we prefer that they don't have anything that they can hack. So we do some things, and this is kind of our area of expertise. So we'll share a little bit. It's not a product or a company presentation here, more or less, more of an industry, some ideas for you to understand some things that are taking place in the industry itself. We talked about some of these things, compliance, data-centric security. When we talk about data-centric, we're actually talking about the data itself. In this case, many times, you might have heard of encryption. And encryption is basically making the information using tools that are readily available. AES 256 encryption is currently the highest level of encryption available. And we use that, but we use that as a starting point. And we go far beyond what traditional encryption does. And the idea there is to make sure that no one can break into the information that is your own information or your company's information. There's things that are involved with this data protection as well as, number one, who has access to the information? Who has access to actually get to there? So you start getting into access control and accessibility to that information. You get into the management of that. If you're trying to start up, say, 1,000 servers or 1,000 VMs, whatever it might be, how can you provision that many in a timely fashion to protect that data. In an enterprise environment, 1,000 servers, 1,000 VMs is nothing. That's peanuts for a lot of large organizations. So being able to provision that many servers at one time, all of the same, and make that occur, you get into things like key management. Anytime that you encrypt a file, you create a very unique key, and that unique key is the way into that data. So if you're encrypting 1,000 files, you have 1,000 keys. Now you have to manage those keys. If you have 1,000,000 files, you've got 1,000,000 keys. So now when we start talking about key lifecycle management, there are even industries that require you to rotate those keys every 6 months or every 90 days. So the functions of encryption also include things like key management and the rotation and the deletion of keys. How do you do that? In many cases, there are, in most cases, I'll put it this way, you have to have a separate device that manages those keys. We do some things that are different. I'll just share it with you just so you kind of understand that. And the last one is access logging, is providing an access log so that if and when there is a breach, you have a means to go back and evaluate and view who has had access to that data. So it's very, very important to find out how things have occurred and what we can do to remediate that as quickly as possible. So if you look at this, here we are, traditional lines of defenses, whether it's perimeter firewalls, network access control, network segmentation, all of these different things, right? You're trying to protect, at the end of the day, keep everybody out so that your data is protected. But the reality is, people are still finding ways to get in, right? Anthem Blue Cross, Target, Sony, we can go on and on and on, right? Even many of the U.S. governmental agencies. So people are finding ways to get in. We have a particular offering that, again, focuses on protecting the data itself, and this is really what's different. I'll talk about this just from an educational standpoint, more or less, but to show you how we do what we do, or at least talk about it very high level. So this cryptographic splitting, I would say, if you were to say, what's your secret sauce? That's our secret sauce, right? Encryption is available today. You'll hear of other companies that can do encryption, but we like to think, and we've been told by U.S. government, companies like IBM that have tested this over a 2-3 year period, that we've got one of the most advanced, maybe the most advanced means of protecting the data itself. We currently have secret certification with the U.S. government, about to have top secret certification. So the highest levels of communication, I don't know if Hillary could borrow this encryption or not, might help. But as we look at what we're doing, I just want to share with you what has happened. So in this case, the data is encrypted at this AES 256 encryption technology, which is available and which you'll hear from many companies. But beyond that, we basically have what we call an information dispersal algorithm. For the engineers in the audience of that, these are the types of tools that are being used to not only differentiate what we do, but to make this a highly secure offering so that governmental agencies or three-letter agencies, whatever it might be, they need tools as well. And I would tell you, those are some of the types of people that we deal with on a regular basis. But this intellectual property, nearly 300 patents that we have, are based upon this technology of not only encrypting the data, but taking that encrypted data and going through an information dispersal algorithm which randomizes this data and splits it at the bit level. So you think about that. It's encrypted, now you split it at the bit level, now you mix it up, okay? Beyond that, so that randomization, once we do that, now we have the opportunity to split that data and actually send pieces of that data to different storage devices that that server can see. So if you were to, let's see if I can get this to work here. Yeah, if you were to go to any one of those storage locations, now you not only have data that is encrypted, but it's split and randomized at the bit level. So you don't even have anything that can be put back together. There is no way of cracking that information and telling what that information is. That's a very high level of security. And at a high level we're talking about today, that's something that's different. I bring this to your attention just in the fact that this type of technology is important to people not only at the enterprise level, but governmental agencies, anybody that's trying to protect their data. So those are some of the things that we do. The redundancy is added, so you don't even need to have all of these pieces come back together. So if you have 3 shares here, for example, only 2 of them would be required to come back to put the data back together. But we control, we put the user in control of the keys versus us. Now that's a very important point, because early on, other cloud companies actually controlled the keys to the encryption. So if they were subpoenaed by the US government and said, we want you to give us the data from XYZ company, they had to comply. So an important component here is that the users always want to be in control of their own keys, because nobody wants to be subjective to having a third party give up their data upon a subpoena or a request from a governmental agency. So you'll hear that more and more, just something to think about as you go forward. Again, we do some things like authentication to make sure that the data is what was put in and what comes back are identical. So those are just some things, again, try to keep this at a high level. It's not a product presentation, it's more of a technology presentation about some things that are available in the marketplace and some things that make this kind of technology important and why it's important. Data-centric versus network-centric, and it's not an either-or. The reality is, as we talked about, today, 85 different vendor tools from 55 different vendors to protect an enterprise. You know, companies like Dell or IBM have security organizations that try to bring all of those tools together so that they are managing that versus a customer, which is an outstanding service, right? Because I can tell you, in dealing with a lot of customers, they don't want to manage, they have a business to run. I don't care what kind of widgets they make, software, hardware, they could make insurance, they could make whatever. They want to focus on that. But at the end of the day, they have to also make sure that nobody's getting into their secret sauce, into their own data. You know, in terms of some of the things we've talked about here, these things like policy access control, those are very important. Is a separation of duties so that you don't have a Robert Snowden effect where one guy has the keys to the kingdom. Now you separate those duties so that you have a system administrator who gives administrative rights. You've got a security administrator who takes care of the security aspect, and you may have a policy administrator. So people in the finance group are the only ones that can see the financial records. People in the sales group are the only ones that see the customer records. People in the research group are the only ones that have access to the research records. So a combination of those 3 separation of duties now makes sure that only the right people can get access to the data. But should somebody not being authorized get to the data, we make sure that that data has there's no way to crack that data unless you are an authorized person with the accessible rights to that. So some of the things that we're doing, you'll hear along the way, we have different means of protecting that data, and that originally we started off with a file level encryption. There's things that come into play when you do that is, number one, no matter what type of encryption or data protection that you're using, you always have to take into account the latency. What is the performance degradation? And there will always be some, if you have to do something with the data before it performs its function, is how transparent can you make that? Can you make it such that a user does not see any performance degradation in what they're trying to do, but still have access to protected, their data would be protected, whether it's in their use or someone else's, right? So those are some things to keep in mind as well. This starts getting into some particulars there, but at the end of the day, it's how we protect the data at a very high level. So some of the things that we're doing as well, and we talked about this, is from a storage perspective. How do you take care of petabytes, terabytes, zettabytes type of an environment? using the cloud is one way. And object storage, many people heard of object storage or used object storage previously? Anybody? Object storage is basically a means of low-cost storage in the cloud that is just a percentage of what you would run into from a hardware standpoint, but it is an opportunity to put either archival data, things like that. I think of like the legal profession that is regulated to have 7 years, I think it's 7 years of client data, no matter what. Every client they have for the past 7 years, they have to maintain that data. Has to be accessible. Doesn't always have to be, it's not like they're using it every day, but if somebody subpoenas them and says, bring back Joe Jones's information from 6.5 years ago, they have to be able to pull that data. Cloud object storage is a perfect opportunity for that because it is low cost, and it's typically paid as you go, pay as you drink, as they might say, where you're paying for the gigabytes on a per monthly basis for how much you use. In many cases, 2 to 3 cents a gigabyte per month is what you might pay for object storage. Now the good news is it's a lot lower cost and you only pay for it as you need it type of a thing, and that's where cloud really comes in, right? Whether it's storage or compute, you're paying as you go. I want a provision of VM for 6 hours, 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, and I need 5 terabytes of storage. Boom. Cloud is a great way to go with that. But you'll also hear from others besides myself about the need to secure data in the cloud. So how do you do that? What we offer is just one means of doing so, and then how do you get that data from the enterprise to the cloud securely? Some things you'll see here, we have a particular, what we call a gateway, that allows that data to go from the enterprise up to the cloud, and in our case, we can go to any cloud. All right, so we basically write the APIs, or those are familiar with that terminology, and we create that capability to not only send the data to the cloud, but in our case, we can actually split pieces of that data and go to multiple clouds. So in our case, we could say, you know what, I want to send 5 terabytes of data up to the cloud, but you know what, we're going to split that data between 3 clouds. So that if anybody were to break in this cloud or that cloud or that cloud, not only do they get a piece of the information, but it's encrypted and it's randomized and it's split. So we consider it the most secure, we've been told, not just ourselves, that it is the most secure means of protecting data in the cloud, going to the cloud, right? So it's not only split and randomized, but only a piece is available in each individual cloud. So those are some things, just a little bit about us. When I say we're an Orange County-based company, to me that's a great thing. I love living in Orange County. Grew up in the Midwest, lived in North Carolina, Texas, California, Ohio, traveled the world, great place to live. And it's great to know that we actually have a company that's based here that allows me to live and work where I'd like to live and work. We've got other locations as well where we have development and test. Again, highly intellectual property, a lot of test and development work is being done to interoperate efficiently and securely with multiple operating systems. The nice thing and the challenging thing about the IT environment is things are always changing, right? Linux, Windows, VMware, new version seems to be about every day, right? There's something new coming out. So to keep up with all of these changes, we've got teams and teams of people that have to keep up with all of the iterations. And it's amazing the interoperability that has to take place in an enterprise environment to make this seamless, latency-free, and just the opportunity to work together. So there's a lot of work going on there. Some of the things that we've done and some of the highlights of our company, we basically started out with some of our founders came from the military. Many people in the cybersecurity industry start in the military. But biometrics, and basically the start was had to find a way to protect biometric information like fingerprint scans, electronic fingerprint scans, from being duplicated or replicated. So it was, let's come up with this technology that doesn't allow that to take place. So the reality was, after we went into that, was, you know what, we can use this for all data, not just biometric information. So today, we're actually working in mobile applications, military applications, ship-to-ship, secure communications. We're working with IoT manufacturers to integrate security in data that must be protected at the IoT level. We're working with companies like IBM as their chosen security technology as an OEM provider to them. And that's public information. There's things I can't tell you that I'll kill you. But with this particular IBM, we have a public relationship there. Unisys, who I saw was one of your partners as well, we are integrated into their Stealth product, where they're using it to basically make invisible the interconnectivity and the access to information that they see as well. So there's lots of different types of things that we've done. You'll see we're talking to folks at the highest level, and we make it public, but Pentagon, NSA, some folks you've talked about, we're talking with a lot of those folks. They are very, very interested in this technology. It's currently being used in different areas of the world, and we hope to have that to be many more areas of the world. But those are just some of the types of things that we do. It's sometimes a quiet company and a kind of behind-the-scenes company is not a bad thing. Our brand is underneath the hood of some major companies that you don't always hear about, because not everybody goes around flaunting, I'm using XYZ security because they're the best and nobody can ever break. Okay, guess what? Everybody's going after that company, right? So cybersecurity is very interesting, but there's a lot of secrecy around it. I can share things that are public in terms of what we're doing. But today, for me, I'm excited to be here with you to talk about the opportunity that you have in this chosen field that you have here, right? We've got, in this case, we have John Sculley. You can find some of this on our website if you see it. But John Sculley, former CEO of Apple, saw this technology, and he does a nice video blurb as he was talking to Fox News about what are some game-changing technologies that are out there. So for us, I think that was a pretty cool thing there. Rang opening bell, some different business-related things. And I would tell you, I focus more on the global business aspect of things now, but I have to use my background of technology, and I continue to do so on a regular basis. So I would challenge you to do the same. Any opportunity you have to learn, continue to learn. Continue to get in front of different opportunities that you have to expose you to different areas where you can focus in your careers. Currently a documentary with James Earl Jones talking about us in there. So with that, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I'll leave you with one thing, is one of the neat things that I heard one time was Steve Jobs, and he did the commencement address at Stanford University, and I do love that. You know what? And one thing he said was, don't follow in somebody else's career path. Choose your own path and follow the dots. And I can tell you that's absolutely the case in my career, because your career is not always a straight line, but the things you learn along the way will absolutely and can absolutely help you as you go in your career. I would challenge you to look out 20 years and say, what's the world going to be like in 20 years, and how can I adapt that so that I'm prepared and in a greater position to do the things that I want to do. And I would say that cybersecurity is going to give you a lot of opportunities. And there are a lot of areas where you focus your time and your effort. And I wish you all the best and the best of luck. It's a great industry. I don't think the hackers are going to stop. So I hope all of us can get together on the good side, stop a lot of that. But I'm excited for all of you as you go forward in your career. So thank you very much.